Well, the Mariners did the right thing and actually released Mitch Haniger, but could they have given him a better send-off? We'll answer that and more coming up here on Mailbag Monday. Colby, hit it.
You are Locked On Mariners, your daily Seattle Mariners podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Ahoy, sailors. It is Monday, March 24th, 2025. This is Tony Gonzalez and Colby Patnode for the Locked On Mariners podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. And as always, if you want to hear from me and Colby even more and help support the show, you can check out our Patreon. All you have to do to check that out is click the link in the description of this episode. So it is our final Mailbag Monday before the start of the regular season. We have made it, folks. We are going to answer some of your Mariners questions, starting with NWFXC, who wants to know, do we anticipate early trade season based on the market from the off season from teams bowing out early, like the Marlins last year when they traded Luis Arraez in May, as an example?
Yeah, it's unlikely. I would say the group of events that has to happen for a significant player to get traded, after the regular season starts and before June, a lot has to happen there, and all those things are highly unlikely. So I would say probably not. Even if you did, like a couple of the teams that we know are going to be bad, it might be like tragically bad early enough in the year that they know that they're just going to sell. Miami and Chicago, pretty much it. What even is on Chicago outside of Luis Robert that you would have interest in? Nothing. And so, Miami, there's some bullpen arms and stuff like that. But in terms of like an Arraez level type of player being traded before the All-Star break, I would say that's highly unlikely. It is pretty much every year. And it gets a little bit more unlikely because there's value in these teams that know they're fringe contenders. There's value in keeping on the facade that you're an actual legitimate threat to make the playoffs into July. Like, again, if like the Oakland A's, like I think we know they're probably not going to be playoff. They'll probably be annoying. They'll probably be a lot better than they were last year, but I think we know that they're at least a year away from being a playoff team. Well, they're not going to trade, Zach Geloff or whatever. They're not going to trade in May because they could just keep them and,
Well, and also some teams can point to like last year's Astros team and be like, yeah, we got off to a slow start, but we can turn it around. Or the Mets, right? Like we got off to a slow start and we looked like we were potentially heading to, a clear selling year. And then, we turned things around. We made the playoffs, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah. You kind of need you need an owner that doesn't want to pay money, which is a lot of them. So, but you also need a team that is off to such a tragic start that like, there's not even a delusion that they could actually compete. So
like maybe the Padres would be the target team here if they fell off a cliff to start the year, which I don't think will happen, but maybe given all the issues going on there with that organization.
Trade like Dylan Cease in May and because they think they can get a pitcher to replace, well, not as good as him, but so yeah, Padres, Cardinals, I would say the Blue Jays, but so yeah, like it's definitely possible, but I would say it's highly unlikely.
Ross wants to know, Carlos Vargas, ... question mark. What in the actual hell? He is awful. What could they possibly be thinking? So yeah, if you missed it yesterday, Casey Legumina was optioned to AAA Tacoma, and Troop Pomeranz and Jesse Hahn were just outright released. So that leaves Carlos Vargas as the likely eighth man in the Mariners bullpen, which is a role that might only last a week or two, depending on how quick either Troy Taylor or Matt Brash, who by the way might pitch today, is able to come back. So yeah, Vargas, this is a guy that I just assumed was going to get DFA'd. I know he's out of options. I assume that's kind of a driving force here for the decision to keep him on the roster. They haven't seen him at the major league level yet since they traded for him. Why do you think Carlos Vargas is on this roster, Colby? Just that reason alone?
I guess. I mean, I what I don't think is happening, I don't think that like Jerry is desperate to salvage some value out of the Geno trade. He knows that was
No.
bad. There's nothing he can do that's going to
Yeah.
make that okay. Nothing. So
Yeah.
that not a factor. I don't think, at least. Vargas, I don't know. He didn't really do anything this spring that showed that he earned a spot. He didn't do anything this spring that showed that he like had improved in any significant way. It is, a very live fastball that's very straight and not that hard to hit. And it kind of last year he started morphing more into a lot of cutters, which were only 95, 96, and not that great. So I don't know. Maybe this is something like, hey, we have a lot of home games to start our year. We really think his stuff will play at T-Mobile. Let's get him up here and do that. And again, like you said, he's probably only going to be here for a couple weeks at most.
Yeah.
So it's not like a super huge deal, but it is just a really weird decision because Legumina far and away earned it.
He was the talk of the group this spring. I thought it was a slam dunk, especially after Seth Martinez got DFA'd.
Well, I mean, plus he probably was the best one, the most consistent one. Like every Mariner reliever has had a blow up appearance this spring. Legumina, not really. And so like, it's not based on performance, and we know it's not. We always say all the time, it's not just about your numbers in spring training.
Yeah, no.
So this to me just feels like, let's take one last shot on the guy. Or maybe they've discovered something pretty recently that they're excited about. And it's like, hey, I mean, but also, something to keep in mind, there's going to be a lot of relievers that are going to get cut, DFA'd over the next few days. Maybe the Mariners are going to trade Trent Thornton or they think they are. And so let's send Legumina down. And then when we trade Thornton, we'll just call up Legumina and, so Vargas is, whereas if we put Legumina on the roster now, we might lose Vargas in a couple days to waivers or whatever.
Sure. Yeah.
I don't know. Like, I really don't have a good idea because there's no really rational reason to make that call. So it's very strange. Again, we'll have to wait and see if he even actually ends up pitching for the Mariners before opening day. Because I do think they could acquire a reliever or something like that here in the next few days. Again, a lot of players are going to get released. A lot of players are going to get DFA'd over the next, 24 hours. Yeah. So it could just be as simple as that. But yeah, it's very strange.
Yeah. It's not a huge deal because it is a relatively insignificant role that, again, is probably only going to last a handful of days, couple weeks at most. But it's weird. It's just, and like, if you're going to send down Legumina for someone that you have to carry onto the roster out of camp, why not Drew Pomeranz, whose fastball has graded out really well in terms of the the underlying data. So yeah, I mean, with the Mariners and pitching and relief pitching specifically, like, I'll defer to them, but weird choice.
Yeah, I mean, they had a pretty rough year last year.
Yeah, the Tyson Miller, Mike Baumann thing. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I mean, they got one guy out of it, Snyder, but yeah.
So I don't know, strange one, but again, not too huge of a deal. All right, we're going to answer more of your questions in just a moment, but first, a reminder: this episode of the Locked On Mariners podcast is brought to you by Just Ingredients. When it comes to fueling your body, quality matters. That's why Just Ingredients is changing the game with clean, high-quality products designed to support better health and peak performance. Just Ingredients offers an NSF-certified line of protein powder, electrolytes, pre-workout, and creatine, all rigorously tested to ensure they're free from substances banned by major athletic organizations. Just Ingredients has also partnered with two-time MVP Bryce Harper, who trusts their NSF-certified sports line to fuel his training and recovery. I love that Just Ingredients prioritizes wholesome, nourishing ingredients without the artificial junk. Visit justingredients.us and use the promo code LOCKEDONMLB. That's LOCKEDONMLB for 20% off. And for more wellness tips, follow @just.ingredients on Instagram. And you're listening to the Locked On Mariners podcast. It is Mailbag Monday. We're going to answer more of your questions in just a second. But before we do, hey, we got this giveaway going on that you've probably already heard about. Colby's shocked by that news. But if you haven't heard about it, Colby's going to tell you all about it right now.
How could I? I've never heard about it.
Right.
So if you guys missed last week, you're just getting back into it because, hey, we're playing real baseball this week. How exciting is that? So we're giving away, like we usually do, we're giving away cards, but we're also giving away gift cards. Like it's a big prize pack. And how you enter is the same it always is for us. All you have to do, subscribe to the YouTube channel, leave a comment on any episode starting from last Thursday till the end of the Mariners' first homestand, and you can be entered. That's about, I think that's 10, 12 episodes. You can be entered 10, 12 times. Ty and I will then pick a random video. We will pick a random comment from that video. Well, we won't do it, but a software will do it for us. And that person is going to win everything in our prize pack. It is one grand prize winner. And that is the difference from our past giveaways where, if we reach new tiers, there would be a new person would win one prize. This time, one person is winning everything we have to offer. And like our other giveaways, this one is also tiered. So we need the subscriber count to go up and we'll give away more stuff. Already being given away right now, we have Victor Robles autograph card, this JP Crawford autograph card, and $50 in Simply Seattle gift certificates. We've already reached those milestones. We are very close to reaching the next milestone. We might have already reached it by the time you guys are watching this, but that will be this A. Eugenio Suarez autograph card and another $50 gift certificate, $25 gift certificate to Simply Seattle. In our next, we reach our next threshold, we'll toss on another $25 Simply Seattle gift certificate. We reach 12,900 subs. Throw in this Felman Celestin autograph card. Very nice. 12 out of 15. That one's numbered as well. We reached 12,950. Then we'll throw on another $25 gift certificate to Simply Seattle. And if we reach 13,000, which would be great, that's kind of our goal, then I'll throw this Lazaro Montes autograph card into the pile. So if we max out, everybody, we reach our thresholds and all that stuff, the winner's going to walk away with $125 of Simply Seattle gift cards and a JP Crawford, Victor Robles, a Eugenio Suarez, Felman Celestin, and Lazaro Montes autograph card. So probably our biggest prize pack ever, and it's going to one person. So all you have to do, again, subscribe to the YouTube channel, leave a comment on any of the videos or all of them, and you'll be eligible to win.
All right. Hopping back into our questions. Scott wants to know, what would a proper send-off for Mitch Haniger have looked like if he wasn't released? So yeah, Mitch Haniger was released by the Mariners yesterday officially. The Mariners actually did it, which is crazy. And I might be wrong, but I'm pretty sure none of you actually asked what our general thoughts are about that. Which, this has been one of the biggest topics we've talked about all offseason. And we were pretty firm on, they're not going to do it. And they wound up actually doing it. And yeah, no one asked our general thoughts. Weird. So before we answer Scott's question, Colby, what do you think about the Mariners actually deciding to move on from Mitch Haniger, as they should have?
Yeah, surprising they did. The Mariners actually had a pretty good 3-day weekend in terms of just doing stuff that makes sense. With the new streaming service that's going to be available.
Which you guys also didn't ask us about. Weird.
$20 a month to watch all the Mariner games. If you're in, less than $1 a game, save you a lot of money. Yeah. And nobody asked about that. And obviously Haniger, it's the right thing to do to not carry Mitch Haniger on your roster because he can't help you. We know that Mitch is pretty much cooked at this point. But to answer the question, I think the end result is what it needed to be. Mitch Haniger is not going to play baseball for the Mariners this year. It's unfortunate, but that's just where we are in Mitch's career. So while the final, destination ultimately is what needed to happen, the path there, I think they butchered on several occasions. So I think the proper send-off would have actually happened last year at the end of the season when you knew that there was a 0% chance that Mitch Haniger made any sense for your roster. And it's not like the Mariners went out and they got a bunch of guys that made Mitch irrelevant. They weren't playing Mitch in September anyways, and the Mariners didn't do really anything this winter. So it's not like, oh, well, we had plans for Mitch to be with us. It's just, we went out and we acquired this guy and this guy and this. No, you didn't. So the proper send-off would have happened last year when you had 3 games against the Oakland A's.
Yeah.
You weren't playing for anything. You could have put Mitch Haniger out there all 3 days, let the fans know, like, this is it. We are going to release Haniger at the end of the year. And again, it's like, well, do you want him to lose leverage in trade talks? They had no leverage in trade talks with Mitch Haniger. Get out of here, So we're going to release Mitch at the end of the year. We really appreciate what he's done, but we need to move on. Blah, blah, blah. So come out, support, give Mitch Haniger a proper send-off because he at least deserves that. Whether or not he's a Mariner Hall of Famer, I don't know. I'd lean probably not, but also I don't really care. If they put him in, fine, whatever, I'll go. But at the very least, this is a guy who was, part of your franchise for 7-8 years. And he literally gave his limbs and other body parts to the city to try and win a championship here with the Mariners. He sat through that terrible rebuild. He came out on the other side. He had some mammoth years for you. He was an all-star. He was your best player for a couple of years. Like, he was a Mariner in every sense of the word. And he deserved to be taken off the field in that last game in the 9th inning, give the standing ovation and all that stuff, and just get to experience that. Then they could have released him. They didn't do that, but then they could have released him this winter or at the beginning of spring to possibly give him an opportunity to go find another job. At the very least, they could have given him that courtesy. They didn't do that. And then they get all the way to the end of spring training, and they could just put him on the IL. He has not played in almost 3 weeks now because of a left shoulder. Put him on the IL, carry him to opening day, let him go down the pink carpet one last time, celebrate, cheer, blah, blah, blah. And when he's eligible to come off the IL, you just release him. Like, it's one of those things. It's like, you knew every step along the way that that you were probably going to cut Mitch Haniger. And this is something that you could do. It's very simple. It's very easy. It doesn't cost you anything. They had multiple opportunities to do right by Mitch, and they didn't. Now, what I will say is that maybe Mitch didn't want all that. Maybe this is just who Mitch just wants to, thank you. We'll do this quietly, and then I'll go. And that does seem to fit his personality a little bit. But so maybe this is all like Mitch's, this is what I want. This is all. Don't do that. Blah blah blah. Like, let's just get this over. Maybe we don't know.
Plus, maybe the injury isn't serious enough where him being on the IL makes sense. You want to get a jump start on him signing with the team. All that. Yeah,
maybe. But I mean, I guess if it's like, hey, don't put me on the IL, that'll hurt my stock. It's what stock? But again, the way they should have done this, to answer the question, this should have happened last September or October, I guess, technically.
So why didn't that happen? That's kind of my question. And follow up to that question was this decision always greenlit, or is this something that was recently greenlit? Because the reason that we were so firm on they're not going to do this is because we felt that at least one part of the Mariners organization, ownership, was going to essentially force them to keep him on the roster just for the sake of, we're paying him all this money, at least see if you can get something for our money before you just outright cut him, right? Because we know he's cooked. The coaching staff knows he's cooked. Front office knows he's cooked. But we know how this ownership operates. And, $15.5 million is a lot to them. Right. So is this something that only got greenlit recently, whether it be the injury, the arrival of Rowdy Tellez? Because look, they're not doing this to give a spot to Dom Canzone or Austin Shenton or someone like that. They're doing this at least in part or they're giving the spot being opened up by Haniger to Rowdy Tellez. Right. And they're giving, him $1.5 million to do that as well. So I don't know. It's just a weird situation. Like, was this always the plan? Is this because we also talked about leading up to spring that at the very least, they're probably going to keep him through the spring because this is someone this is someone you're familiar with. He does have a ton of major league experience. If an injury crops up, at least you have this guy, right? Mm-hmm. So yeah, I don't know. Was this just always something that was available to them, or is that more recent? And
yeah, I mean, even the rollout of the announcement was weird. It was just one tweet that the Mariners have released Mitch Haniger from the PR team, and then there was, then a statement was put out 15. It wasn't put out with the tweet that he had been released. It was put out separately, and then an hour and a half after that, there was a graphic up, and it's like, it just felt very disjointed, and the whole thing, it didn't feel like, it felt like rushed and like not something that it just felt a little wrong to kind of like treat Mitch Haniger, like him being released at the roughly the same equivalency of like if they released, I don't know, Rowdy Tellez or like Leo Rivas. Like it just it didn't seem.
I mean, those guys don't get graphics and all that stuff. But
no,
it was
but
weird.
Like,
yeah.
Again, whether or not you think Mitch Haniger is an all-time Mariner legend or he belongs in the Team Hall of Fame, I don't really care. Okay, I really don't.
He's a very important part of this era of Mariners baseball.
He went through the rebuild with you. He came out the other side. He wrote the letter that inspired the fan base and all that stuff. He had big all-time leader in walk-off hits, like literally, again, put his body and his mind and all that stuff on the line for you for 8 years to try and turn this ship around and be a franchise that you could be proud of. It feels like at the very least they could have honored that in a more appropriate way. It just,
I feel like he was deserving of a Kyle Seager-esque send-off,
right. And
at the very least.
Siegs it was very simple. You just go to the last game of the year, get to the 9th inning, make an out, get him off the field.
Yeah.
Again, they did that with Ichiro. They did that with Felix. They did that with Seager. Is Haniger as good as those guys? Is he as important as those guys? Maybe not, but he's certainly more important than some of the other players that have gone through here. And he's definitely a guy who's deserving of just, getting the hat tip and the round of applause from the fan base. And they the Mariners fans didn't really get a chance to do that. So it felt like we got robbed a little bit.
So I just wonder if that, back in September, if the front office of the organization just felt that they weren't, at the very least, they weren't sure if they were going to be able to do this. They weren't going to be approved to do this. And then maybe that became clear over the course of the off season, but
maybe.
Speaking of Mitch Haniger, Victor Robles enthusiast wants to know, besides the obvious single against the Angels, what was your favorite moment of Mitch Haniger as a Mariner? It's another moment that came against the Angels for me. It's the walk-off homer in the rain.
Yep. The grand slam? No.
I don't think so. No.
I don't think
but
so.
it was really cool.
It was the Facebook game back when it was Facebook.
Yeah.
So that one jumps out immediately.
Plus that was like when they were at their hottest, and what was it, 2018, I think?
Yeah, pretty sure.
Yeah. And it was like, wow, man, this team is cooking, and Mitch Haniger is like a legit dude. Like, whoa, this is crazy. Yeah.
It's definitely up there. It's the what a night game is like the seminal Mitch Haniger moment though. Dude hit 39 homers in a season for you. He actually knew how to hit at T-Mobile Park. Like, how awesome is that? How rare is that? A lot of when I think of Mitch Haniger, a lot of the things I think about is him just gunning guys from out there in right field. I remember I think it was against Cleveland. It might have been Felix weekend. I remember he was playing right field and he was like, I don't know, 5 steps in front of the warning track, and he caught a fly ball, and he just threw an absolute missile into home plate. And the runner took like 3 hard steps, looked at the throw and was like, no. Even last year, remember Haniger nailing Mookie Betts at the plate in August. Like, Haniger always had that great arm. So I do think about like the throws that he made, the big home runs that he had. Again, the 8-9 walk-off hits in his Mariner career, which is pretty impressive considering that he was dinged up a lot and he didn't play, 1,000 games here. So, I think the Haniger single, the what a night game. He also had a home run in that game. Remember, Haniger drove in all the runs in that game and single-handedly kept them in that playoff race. The one that immediately jumps out to me is the home run in the rain. Roof couldn't quite close fast enough, so it's raining down a little bit. It's the Facebook game, and he goes into the bullpen to walk it off and screaming around the bases as it's raining and all that. You don't see that a lot in Seattle, so that was pretty cool. Yeah.
I remember exactly where I was watching that, and I remember popping off quite a bit watching that. It was pretty sick. All right. We are going to answer more of your questions in just a moment, but first, a reminder, this episode of the Locked On Mariners podcast is once again brought to you by FanDuel. All right, folks, it's that time of year again. March Madness is finally here, and FanDuel is giving you the chance to get in on the action like never before. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. That's $200 to use on everything from buzzer beaters to Cinderella stories and even who's cutting down the nets. With tournament games happening almost every day, there's always something exciting to bet on. The FanDuel app is simple to use, and when I win, I get paid instantly. No waiting around. So visit FanDuel.com and get in on the college hoops action all tournament long. That's FanDuel.com. And you're listening to the Locked On Mariners podcast. Got a couple more questions of yours to go over here on Mailbag Monday. Max wants to know, we know spring training numbers don't matter, but what are your takeaways from the bullpen? They have all gotten hit hard at some point, which is normal, but is there any part of you that is concerned with this particular group?
Yeah, obviously, we talked about this quite a bit, and I feel like we were probably the loudest, or the first at least, to kind of be like, we really should be talking about the bullpen. Like, the bullpen.
Yeah,
needs
look
help.
at us, guys. We knew before everyone else. We told you so.
We acknowledged it before anybody else. And when you want to roll back those polls, where like 5%, like, I'm worried about the bullpen, and the other one's like, who cares? It's just the bullpen. Like, we can do that if you want.
Sure.
But yeah, we were pounding the table at you. They should probably go make an addition to the bullpen. They shouldn't count on Spire and Santos and Brash being back and being great right away. Like, they should go make a move in that bullpen. Yeah, everybody in the pen has gotten absolutely torched at some point this spring. Is that by itself, scary? No, not really. No. Coming off of what they did at the end of the year last year, you would have preferred.
I mean, still, there's so much context that goes into this. There's so much nuance that goes into this. Guys might be just working on things and they're out.
I'm only throwing my two-seamer today. I'm only blah, blah, blah. But overall, like, am I worried about the bullpen because of how they performed in spring training? No. Am I worried about the bullpen because this actually has a pretty low floor? Yeah, a little bit. Yeah. I mean, we're assuming that Brash is getting back and he's going to be good right away.
Brash is 98 and just struck out a dude on 3 pitches.
All right. Top 5 bullpen.
My goat has returned.
How great the bullpen could be. Obviously, it depends on health. That's the first thing. But it really depends on Brash and Spire, I think, more than even Santos. Like, you need those guys to be really good, because what we saw last year is that Munoz, as good as he is, he needs help. He cannot carry an entire bullpen for an entire season. So I do have concerns about the bullpen. Very little of it has to do with how they performed in the spring.
No, it's the same concerns that I had going into the spring. It's just, is Munoz going to get enough help, like you just said? And what are those, when the starters aren't able to go 6 or 7 innings, what is inning 6 and 7 and 8 going to look like? Right. So, or just, what is the build up to whenever Munoz comes into the game going to look like? And then if you need someone to close out the game after Munoz, what does that look like, and who handles those duties? And do you trust anyone to handle those duties?
Right. It's just one of those things. It's a lot of faith being put in unhealthy guys being healthy all year.
Yeah.
And it's a lot of faith being put on guys who haven't really done it before, repeating what they did last year.
And then you just add in the general weirdness of bullpens. Yeah.
And honestly, not a lot of depth in this bullpen either, because a lot of the pile arms.
I do like this pile better than last year. I'll say that.
Last year's pile wasn't that good either.
Yeah, that's a low bar to clear. I would like this pile better if they were able to keep Drew Pomerantz and Jesse Hahn.
I really hope the Pomerantz thing is just like, hey, go see if you can find a major league deal.
Yeah, I mean, maybe they circle back on both of those guys.
Yeah,
but or those guys circle back to them, however you want to look at it. But
I mean, we'll see. But I am a little bit concerned about the bullpen. It's not because of their spring training ERA.
Yeah, but I would also throw in like Hunter Cranton eventually, Brandon Garcia, like some of those guys into the pile, as well. And that's why I feel better about it, which again, low bar to clear with regards to last year's group, but still. But yeah, overall, like just in terms of like what the first month at the very least is going to look like with this bullpen, yeah, I have some pretty obvious concerns, but none of them have to do with what happened this spring. Cause again, just so much context and nuance and all that just gets lost in spring. All right. Last question of the day comes from Cameron. Can you predict who's hitting the first Mariner home run?
First homer. Jorge Polanco.
Ooh. I'm going to go second game, Mitch Garver.
They're getting shut out in game 1.
Clearly, because that's the only way that this team can only generate offense by putting the ball over the wall. So,
is that even a like untrue statement?
Hopefully it is.
I mean, well, it's going to be in the like mid 50s all week with some wins. So,
yeah, as far as this upcoming series goes, maybe we'll see. But
we'll see. But yeah, I don't know. It'd be cool if like Julio did in his first at bat.
Oh, could you imagine? Oh my God. It'd be a big vibes boost if Julio went yard in his first at bat.
Instead of what's more likely to happen, he's going to ground out to the shortstop 3 times. Probably all on sliders blown away.
If Julio goes yard in his first at bat, I'm absolutely texting you. We're winning the World Series.
I expect that to happen. Like whoever hits the first home run, like it could be Ryan Bliss. You're gonna be like Ryan Bliss, 5-win player confirmed. World Series, here we come.
Yep. All right, well, there you have it. That's going to do it for our show. Thank you so much for joining us here on the Locked On Mariners podcast. For Colby Patnode, I'm Titan Gonzalez. Be sure to give us a follow on Twitter at LO_Mariners. You can follow me at Titan Gonzalez. Colby at CPAT11. That's CPAT11. We're also on Blue Sky. You can follow me at TDG. Colby at MLB Colby. The show at Locked On Mariners. Have yourself a beautiful baseball day, and we'll see you next time. Peace.